First of all, I'd like to thank Rennie and the members of the committee for electing me to this great honor. And I want to congratulate the members here today who have just been elected. It's really humbling and very exciting to be mentioned with the likes of all these great players and great baseball people. Baseball started for me back in 1960 when I was just 6.5 years old. I remember sitting in the projects or Parkchester, which is a very nice area at the time. And sitting there and watching the 1960 World Series. In the first grade at St. Raymond's Grammar School, we had a nun who was from Pittsburgh. And Sister Peter was a big, obviously, Pittsburgh Pirate fan. Sister of Charity. And she bet us that if the Pirates won, we would be inundated with homework. So, of course, being a Bronx boy and making sure I didn't want any homework, we all bet on the Yanks. Unfortunately, we know what happened. Ralph Terry hit that home run. Ralph Terry pitched and hit that home. Bill Mazeroski hit that home run, and that was the end of my dream of no homework for that week. My dad used to take me to the ball games all the time, and I remember the first time he took me. I have to remember growing up in the Bronx or in Brooklyn, wherever in the city, the fields were pretty much, we played on cement, and we played stickball. We didn't have gloves at the time, and so we would play and learn the game with our bare hands. And I remember him taking me to the game, and of course he had his shirt and tie on. And back then the guys went to the game, parents went with shirt and ties. And I remember going to the game and he'd buy 2 seats behind a dish, and I'd sit there. And the thing that stuck out more than ever was the fact that as we're walking through that tunnel, to see the grass, I sound like Michael Kay now, I heard him say the same thing the other day. The grass, the clay, it was just beautiful, and it kind of enticed me to be more and more interested in the game. Because where I grew up in the Bronx, it was mostly a basketball powerhouse in my area, in the projects there. There's a lot of guys that played college ball. I was probably one of the few guys that did play baseball. And I remember the year after that, I made the all-star team as a 9-year-old against 12, so I guess I was pretty good at the time. And I ended up going to the Polo Grounds. And I'm sitting behind home plate. Now, I'm a Yankee fan. But I'm sitting behind home plate, and who comes out to give a speech but the TNT boys, Marv Throneberry, okay, and Frank Thomas. And so I'm sitting there watching them talk, and as they're talking, I'm looking at my glove, which is a Hutch glove that my dad had just bought. What they're talking about, I have no idea. I'm not really paying attention. Here I am, I'm 9. All of a sudden, another guy comes out. His name is Richie Ashburn, whiz kid. I look, and I'm saying to the guys who are 12, I got his glove. I got Richie Ashburn's glove. And they're telling me I'm nuts. I don't have his glove. This is not his glove. I said, no, it is. So for the entire day, I'm running around telling everybody, I've got a Major League Baseball glove. When in fact, I probably didn't even have a replica close to it. My baseball career started when I was again 9. I played for Perfect Carpet Cleaners with the old heavy wool uniforms. And I remember playing third base. I had a pretty good arm. And one of the guys who was our best pitcher, Sean Tobin, who ended up being a DA up in Ellenville, ended up having a fight with somebody else on another team. And he broke his thumb. And now they looked at me to pitch. And I had never pitched before. But they said, we need somebody who can throw. You're the guy. Well, that was the last time I played the infield. I ended up pitching for the rest of my career. And I had a fairly good career. Not as good as I would have liked to, but a fairly good career. From there, I ended up playing at St. Raymond's High School and at Long Island University under 2 great coaches. Ron Patnash, who has since passed away, and Coach Dick Vining, who was at LIU. And I had a great career. Unfortunately for me, I had a shoulder injury that prevented me from continuing to play. So I was really distraught. I'm saying to myself, what the heck am I going to do now? I really loved the game. I didn't know what I was going to do until finally a friend of mine, Lou Santos, and Coach Patnash asked me if I would coach. I never really thought about it because I still wanted to play, but unfortunately I couldn't do that. So I started to coach at St. Helena's and Monsignor Scanlon, which is called now Monsignor Scanlon. After my first year there, I went back to my alumni school, St. Raymond's. And we ended up winning the city championship that year. I was a third base coach and pitching coach. And as I'm at St. Raymond's, we played at Yankee Stadium. And what a thrill that was for me. But the thing that excited me more about it was we got to go into the clubhouse and I actually met Pete Sheehy. And the stories that he would tell, I was just amazed and mesmerized by him. And it really, just kept growing that love of the game from guys like that. As I got older and I had kids, I started to coach. I actually formed a program in Kent, New York, Carmel, New York. And we started a program. We had over 120 to 150 kids that played baseball. And I was lucky enough to start with 3 other guys, the Westchester Putnam Baseball Association, which had over 200 towns from Westchester, Putnam, Rockland County, Dutchess County, and some teams from Connecticut. And we were able to, it was great for the kids. They got to play all over in different areas. I was fortunate to take a team to China. I took a 14-year-old team to China, and my instructions were from Lou Santos, was to teach the Europeans how to play baseball. So I went to Finland, Helsinki, and I'm trying to tell them that first base is not second base. They would run from home plate to second, then to third, then across to first. And I'm scratching my head, And then the Swedish team came over, and they were doing the same thing. We're trying to teach them how to play this game. And it was a great experience for the kids. They got to intermingle with the other kids in the countries and saw how they lived. From there, I went to Beijing. And there we played teams from China, Japan, and South Korea. And they knew how to play the game of baseball. And we had a great time there. The kids got to tour, but they got to see how other people and other kids lived. And one story that I have to mention, we went to a McDonald's in Beijing. And it had to be the biggest McDonald's in the world because there were 35 cash registers. And so after we got our food, we went on the bus to get back in the hotel, and the kids are eating, and I said, okay, now we got to clean up. So when we got to the hotel, they were throwing their bags in the garbage. Well, lo and behold, the tour guide, Kenny, who had previously been educated in the U.S. at Marquette University, came running off the bus, and he grabbed the scraps of food. And I said, did we do something wrong? And he said, no, we save our scraps for our elderly. Ooh. And I'm like, okay. And the kids looked at me and didn't know what to say, and nor did I. And they came to me after and said, boy, are we lucky that we live where we live. This is the greatest country in the world. And they saw it firsthand. As a result of me doing all of that stuff with the leagues, I was able to start my own AAU program, a travel team called the Taconic Rangers. And it's a great program, but it's changed. These travel programs, I think, have gotten out of hand. I think the kids sometimes lose the perspective of what the baseball game is itself. But playing with the Taconic Rangers, I was able to, we had a lot of kids that got scholarships. There's over 100 young men that are now playing college ball from this organization. And it was enlightening and real happy that I was able to help these young kids to move on. As one of the gentlemen mentioned before, I get a lot of calls from kids who are doctors and lawyers, law enforcement and teachers and coaches, asking me to help them with their resumes, asking me for advice, and it's really been rewarding for me to have that. The last 20 years I've been at Kennedy Catholic Prep in New York, and we've won a couple of Archdiocese New York City championships. We've won a state championship. Father Valancourt is in the crowd here today. I thank you, Father, for coming. And that has resulted in, again, a number of young men playing college baseball. We have some men who went to Yale, South Carolina, and places like that. We've been very fortunate like that. And the game has been so good to me. I've made so many good relationships with guys. Some are still present, and unfortunately, I lost 2 players, and I have to tell this one story. I lost a young man who was 16 years old to cancer, bone cancer. Previously, I lost a 20-year-old. He went to Boston College and played. And I'll never forget, he walks into my office at school at Kennedy, And he says to me, Coach, he came in, by the way, with my typical Irish delicacy, my bologna and cheese sandwich with a Diet Pepsi. And he puts it on the table, and he says to me, Coach, I just want to let you know, I got some bad news. And I said, what's that, Nick? He said, and this is my star pitch, he was all state. He said, I have 3 months to live. And I'm like, you know, I didn't know what to say. I had no idea what to say. I was just dumbfounded. But the young man showed me so much courage. There was no animosity. He wasn't ticked off at all. He was just, you know, he said to me, Coach, you're so good at this, you should never quit. You should keep doing this. You're too good with the kids, and enjoy the game, because it's only a game. There's a lot more important things in life than just baseball. And I've always taken that to heart, and I've always told the kids, play the game as hard as they can. Wins and losses are very important for some people, but if you give it 100%, you're a winner no matter what, okay? And I truly believe that. And final, I'd like to just thank my wife and my son Bob, my daughter Tara, and my daughter Katie. Without you guys, I could never have done this. They put up, missing me for a lot of hours. I don't know if that's good or bad for them, but I'm married 44 years, so it must be that I'm away a lot. But without them, I could never have done this. They were very considerate, allowing me to miss. I love you guys very much. Thank you all very much.